This is Lab 9.3 with GenAI, pair plot. The data for this lab contains information about what various works of art were sold for at an auction. This column right here, price USD, is the key column. We're really interested in understanding what factors influence the price for which a work of art was sold. So you can see that in these other columns in the data set, we've got the genre, the number of public institutions it was shown at, and several other pieces of information. We also have this ID column, which is not needed. And what we'd like to do is create a visualization that helps us look at two-way relationships between the price and these other variables in here. And of secondary importance, it would also be interesting to see how these other variables are related to each other. Let's go ahead and go over to a generative AI tool. This is ChatGPT-5. And let's see if it can help us create the pair plot. So I'll start by clicking on this plus button to add files, and then select Add Photos and Files. And then I'll navigate to where the data is stored on my computer and double-click the data file. This is a CSV file, so it looks like it's uploaded. Let's go ahead and enter a prompt. All right, my prompt is, please create and display a pair plot with this data. Place price USD in the first row and column, since that is a variable that we're most interested in analyzing. Do not include the values in the ID column. Include density plots on the diagonal. Color the observations by the values in the genre column. Let's submit this message. This is nice. It gave us a preview of the data so we can verify that we're looking at the right data set, and that all looks good. All right, let's see what we have. This is the right setup here, but it's empty. I don't know why it gave us 3 empty pair plots. This one down here on the bottom looks about right. I think this is what we want. Let's see what the message says. Here's your pair plot. It shows all numeric variables with price USD placed in the first row and column. So price USD. And then tells me it's showing the diagonal plots as histograms, off-diagonal plots as scatter plots. Colors indicate genre values. Would you like me to display only the bottom half of the plot to reduce duplication? I'll say no, but I wonder why it has 3 empty pair plots here. So my response is no, but why are there 4 pair plots, 3 of which are empty? I only want the last pair plot, so please only display that so I can download it as a PNG file. All right, it says here's the single cleaned up pair plot you requested, focused on price USD and ready for download. Let's download it and see what it looks like. Okay, let's talk about how to interpret this plot. Let's look at the x-axis. Across the x-axis, we've got each of the columns of data that we used, except for genre. Genre is being represented by the color of the different x's in these scatter plots. But what these values mean across the bottom is that, for example, in the first column, price USD, every one of these plots in this first column has price USD on the x-axis. And it's pretty similar for each row of scatter plots. So this bottom row has price USD pre-10 median, or the median price for which the work of art sold for at the previous 10 auctions. That's on the y-axis for all of these plots. And then in the diagonal, we would have a straight line, so that wouldn't really be helpful. So instead, it has a histogram in here so that we can see how the values are distributed. So it's hard to see for price USD because most of the observations are really close to 0 in comparison. There's a pretty big outlier over here that's causing us to use most of the space for that outlier. But if we go over maybe to public institution, we can see that these blue bars related to photography show up quite a bit because they have tall bars, and we can see where they show up. So it's in between $0 and $50. All right, so we could use this to analyze relationships in the data. One of the key things that I would look for is if there's a discernible pattern in the data. So I don't really see any discernible pattern here between price USD and price USD pre-10 median, or up here in the top right, which is just the mirror image. This has price USD on the y-axis and price USD pre-10 median on the x-axis. Not a clear relationship. However, there are a couple of relationships that we can see. For example, first row, third column shows the relationship between the estimate center USD and price USD. And there is a clear relationship there. Similarly, second row, fourth column, there's a clear relationship between group, show, and public institution. So it's really helpful for identifying relationships such as those. All right, so that's a pair plot, and this concludes Lab 9.3 with GenAI.